Today's episode is brought to you by the Vegas Bear Guys and 2T Fitness.
Everything sequel contains explicit language. And why the fudge not, you melon farmer?
Hello and welcome to the Everything Sequel Podcast. This is a Friday the 13th edition. Today we're talking Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday. They're not allowed to say Friday the 13th. My name is Michael Shantz of the How Dare You Awards, and joining me, the man who wants to send me to hell, Tom Stewart of Lonesome Whistle Productions. Say hi, Tom.
I don't think so.
If you're trying to place whether or not that's from the movie or from an audience member, could be either.
From the movie. In fact, they're the only words in the movie that prevent this being minutes long. Because without that note of ambiguity, movie's done.
Over.
As soon as it begins, as soon as that cold open's done, Jason done gone to hell.
Yeah, right.
Movie over.
Oh boy. Well, I think we're about to talk about probably the most hated movie in the series. Probably a battle between this and 5, I guess, but
Jason X has a lot of detractors.
oh, fuck them. That's
Neither
ridiculous.
of us, but
That's absurd.
I get the sense that it's persona non gratis as well.
All right. Well, having said all of it, I think we've already mentioned this. Not a good movie, but I don't think it's a slog. I don't think it's not enjoyable completely.
None of these movies are a slug.
Yeah.
But that might just be us. It's possible that this is a slug for some people.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it has some high points. Unfortunately, most of the high points occur in the first 5 minutes of the of the movie.
The way you say some, for some reason, automatically conjured the image of the number 2 to my brain.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. Yeah, that's what I was trying to get across. Yeah, and both of those high points are in the first few minutes of the movie. So, you know, whereas there are parts of most of the movie that you can enjoy all the way through, I feel like this is off to the races, and then it takes a big slump and never really recovers.
All right.
I know. It's hard to argue. There's probably one or two bright spots throughout the rest of the movie, but to me, the meat of this movie, what works about this movie, is over pretty quickly.
Well,
by
certainly,
design.
I agree with you. Certainly, in the sense of what's best about the movie happens quickly.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's best about the movie happens quickly, which you should probably be on the poster, but then no one would stick around for the rest of the movie.
Right.
There's a certain thrill when you know the titles roll, and you're asking yourself, what could this movie possibly be about?
Where are they going from here? I asked.
Where are they going from here? So there's a you know, you get a vicarious thrill out of that.
Sure.
And then they answer the question, and you go, oh, okay, that's where they're going to take it. Well, that has its issues.
So there's that.
Yes.
Well, to speak on this point, you know, critics, they didn't love it. It's 16% on Rotten Tomatoes, this movie.
Well, they liked it more than Jason Takes Manhattan.
What did I say for that one? That was 11? Yeah.
Yeah. So.
That's weird.
Well, I mean, there's there's not much of a New Line Cinema gloss, but the production values kind of raise a little.
I don't know.
And some of the slickness,
Yeah.
maybe, it's slicker than Jason Takes Manhattan.
There's
By no means better.
No, and I kind of scoff at that because a lot of the polish you're talking, I don't know, I don't see a lot of polish, honestly.
Yeah.
A lot of the effects and everything in this movie feel way more like Zabo Hercules, Xena Warrior Princess TV level to me. That's what it feels like.
You say that like it's a bad thing. That sounds like one of my sums.
I'm saying there should be a fundamental difference between the way effects look for television and the way they look for film.
Yeah.
Having said that, though, this movie has some of the best practical effects and horror, body horror
I think that's
stuff
what I'm talking about.
in the whole series. So
and film style as well goes up a notch, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you that. This one feels
film.
Manhattan felt really rooted in the 80s.
Yeah, film style and a greater investment in practical effects.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that. All right, well, we are talking Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday, a 1993 film. Directed by one young Adam Marcus. Perhaps you know Let It Snow, or Fitz and Slade, or Conspiracy? Question mark? All I knew...
Wait, is that your question mark, or is that question mark in the title?
No, that's my question mark. Conspiracy, okay. I noted at least stars Val Kilmer, and I thought to myself, hey, I know that actor.
Okay.
But I didn't know any actors or any of these other films whatsoever.
And this is his first film, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you remember that Camp Crystal Lake Memories, he almost seemed shocked they were giving him this job.
Right.
And it was all, if I remember correctly, all on the strength of a student film he did. And they were just like, here, handle this nonsense.
And he's got some good ideas.
Yeah.
Most of them that he exhausts minutes into the movie, but...
Sure, yeah, right.
It starts in a way that shows that this guy's got a lot of creativity and is trying to think outside the box about a Friday the 13th movie. It's just that once he gets outside the box, there's just a void around that box and there's nowhere to go.
Yeah. But there's
nothing he can do outside the box.
Right. You hardly ever hear anybody say, what this guy needed to do was think more inside the box, because once he got outside the box, he was fucked.
And he just waits outside the box for a period of time and then gets back in the box by, the last third of the movie.
Yeah, but not unlike our last director, whose name I can't remember right now, but when we talked about the Camp Crystal Lake Memories and the director of Jason Takes Manhattan, I was very taken by that director, and I kind of felt the same way about Adam Marcus.
Oh, absolutely. He has no pretensions about,
right.
No delusions about what he did or
what he made.
What he was trying to do. Yeah.
When he talks about fandom's reaction to it, he's not pissed about it. Yes, of course, you didn't like that or you didn't like this, but we just, hey, we want to try something different.
Yeah, he rolled the dice, and sometimes, that's why they call it rolling the dice, is because those dice have single dots on them.
And we talked about that in the ranking episode. Say what you will, but the guy took some swings.
Yeah, it's pretty much all swing once after the cold open's done, I think. Well, the cold open
itself is a swing. Yeah, I mean,
but it's a swing that shows a kind of cleverness that is not present in the rest of the movie. I think that's the difference, is that it's a swing that's done with intelligence and wit.
Yeah.
And an idea behind it, and then almost kind of this opening gambit, if I may call it that,
You may.
is so good.
I'll allow it.
It's so good. He burns the rest of the movie on this opening.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was watching the opening, I was like, we probably shouldn't have done this, but if you're gonna burn your movie,
Right,
on something, this is not the worst way to do it.
no.
So,
All right, let's get to it. First of all, this movie had a budget of just $3 million, so they're sticking to form. But it did have an opening weekend of $7.5 million, and in the USA and in the world, $15.9 million. So, again, problems, but this movie made a profit.
yeah, and I guess people wanted to see what New Line would do with the property, and they kind of teased the idea of an unrated video cut of the movie, so
Correct.
there was a lot going on promotionally with it that would, I think, excite fans.
And that's my first note. We're now with New Line.
Yeah, it's really jarring to see the New Line Cinema logo to the strains of the Jason theme.
Mm-hmm.
And I use the word strain advisedly because it's as distorted as buried as it possibly could be in the mix here. But, I mean, what's really great about the way that this movie opens is that it's to borrow your phrase, reasonable facsimile of what the original Friday the 13th looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Like with the all the zooms, the faded stock, obviously the music they're using, the hovering camera
Yeah.
idea, which Sean S. Cunningham / Steve Miner came up with. Join our Patreon to hear my theory that Steve Miner in fact directed the original
Yes.
Friday the 13th. It's they're trying to make it look as original recipe Friday the 13th as possible, and it's an accomplished pastiche.
Yeah, it's coming pretty close, right?
And it has to be because it's all one big fake out, and that only works if you kind of if you dissemble the viewer enough with the aesthetic.
Yeah. I did have one question though, because as the credits fade and we kind of come up in media res, and there's that road sign that says Fairfield, and I think to myself, am I to understand that Camp Crystal Lake was always in Connecticut?
Is that where? So is it? But did they ever say this is Camp Crystal Lake?
I just always thought that was the assumption.
But that's part of the fake out, isn't it? That it's sort of... Is that the first clue that this is not...
Maybe it could be the first clue.
This is an FBI sting?
I like the way you say that.
Well, that's what it is. I mean, wonderfully so. Best part of the movie by a mile.
For sure.
Something I noticed is when our final girl, or I guess our first girl in this
First
context.
girl. Julie Michaels, by the way, of Roadhouse fame.
Ah. When she goes into the closet to change the light bulb, the name of the light bulb brand is Twice the Life. Which I think is kind of it's self-conscious, and it gives the viewer a clue that everything's a setup.
Right.
But it's this kind of creeping postmodern irony. Like, we're in the middle of the 90s now. Is this post Pulp Fiction or pre Pulp Fiction?
Pre, because this is 93.
But still, I mean, the waves are towards a more self-conscious kind of filmmaking.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of riding the wave of that. I was struck so much by the similarities to, even though it's earlier, to Halloween 6. In the kind of feel of this movie. But obviously the next movie is where self-awareness kind of takes off.
Yeah, runs large.
Is jettisoned into the
Tromping
atmosphere. But
through the film.
There are hints of it there, like this whole opening set piece, which is, required.
But it's interesting that you're bringing this up,
irony to enjoy it. I think
it's interesting that you're bringing this up because this is 93, and we know that Quentin Tarantino watched everything, and Pulp Fiction's 94, and then Scream is 96. And so these things that are starting to creep into cinema now, that might have been drawn on by better filmmakers, and then
by better filmmakers
used to better effect.
I think I see a lot of Tarantino in here, especially the use of obscene language is very Tarantino-esque. I guess True Romance is 93, isn't it? So, and Reservoir Dogs is 92, so it's not.
Yeah.
So it is responsive to that
Sure.
as well. I think it's also interesting where it's a big swing that really works is we don't have to see another recap sequence.
Correct.
Like big chunk of the end of the last movie scene. Because we're abandoning chronology. But this is the way of this is our refresh point so that we can lay out the formula for the movies.
Yes, but
we just don't have to speak to the chronology anymore. So this is kind of in lieu of a recap.
Yeah.
But all you have to do is kind of lay out the conventions, the foundations of the series in this scene.
But it is all its own, and this movie will get to 1 hour and 27 minutes all by its lonesome. Thank you very much.
Oh, is it hour 27?
Yeah.
So it's the shortest of these movies.
Yeah.
Wow, it doesn't feel like it. It doesn't feel like it at all.
No, agreed. It it feels closer to 2 hours.
And then we get nudity and showering. We're sort of manufacturing all the preconditions for a Jason attack. Again, this sort of self-aware use of those conventions. We've now decided that this is what makes Jason attack. This is like the pheromones that cause him to get his machete out.
We're prepping for murder through boobs.
Yeah. And, we're abandoning chronology because Jason is not a small child any longer. He is kind of... Either we imagine he got retoxified before he left New York and came back to Camp Crystal Lake or wherever.
Into some new barrel of gunk and reanimated into the monster that he is, that we see in the beginning of this movie.
And I was about to say went back to Camp Crystal Lake, but if we've decided this is the FBI's Camp Crystal Lake staging area, it could be anywhere.
Right.
But essentially this is a direct sequel to Part 7.
Maybe it's like Blazing Saddles. They built a whole Camp Crystal Lake in Fairfield, Connecticut.
I mean, that's kind of the implication, I think.
That's good.
So this is a direct sequel to Part 7, effectively.
Mm-hmm.
We're missing out the events of 8.
Or at the very least,
we don't see him
ignoring them.
Yeah, ignoring them, yeah. We don't see him come out of the lake, but that's kind of taken as read at this point. And I kind of like that he just appears.
Yeah.
It also, and obviously it helps the bit that he's kind of summoned out of nowhere, because that was the point of the exercise, was to do everything they could to create the preconditions of a Jason attack.
Right. Lights go out, come back on, tits appear.
And Jason, that's your cue.
little salt, pepper, cumin, like you're just building the recipe.
And and it's the detail that really sings here, because when she falls as she's being chased, it's that sort of self-parody of the series cliches, like employing those conventions with intelligence and self-referentiality.
Well, yeah, because what I like about it, when you find out subsequently where the scene goes, you realize, oh, is that just a really great FBI agent using what she knows she must do to lure Jason and get everything just so?
And I guess it's like someone who understands horror films as well, because that's the point where the audience is, kind of has to suspend disbelief that everyone's always gonna fall over at the moment, exactly the moment they're about to outrun their pursuant.
Yeah.
And I wrote excellent twist opening, very Bond-like.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like the cold opener from Russia with Love, or that
19 minutes 46 seconds.
Or that weird virtual reality section of Die Another Day. just to bring it back down to my level. Yeah, so good it's almost worth ruining the story for the rest of the movie.
Yeah,
Which it absolutely does.
it
But
does indeed.
in terms of, like, it comes out, the other thing I respect about this cold open is it comes out of the gates giving the audience what they want while challenging expectations. So exploding Jason is kind of giving the fans what they want to see. The problem is, in doing that, you have to answer for what's next, and the movie doesn't really have an answer of what happens after that.
Well, sure, and I mean,
For this moment of
right.
spectacle and gore that any horror fan would want, and any Friday the 13th fan would want to see.
right.
But whether they would want to lose the rest of the movie because of it, I don't know.
Well, and you don't necessarily have to have lost the rest of the movie. I mean, they make their own choices about what happens with Jason, but you could have done anything you wanted, right? He could have come back together Terminator 2 style.
Yeah, that would have been amazing.
Because he's just that evil, and he just sort
it's
of...
probably too recent a reference to play with, though. You know, you need like with that kind of parody. You know, it's like the parody of the Untouchables in Naked Gun 33 and the Third.
You need a little more time
for it to marinate. There's like it's well. Having said that, isn't Robert Patrick in Wayne's World 2 the same year?
Yeah, you're right.
So maybe if you're Mike Myers, you don't, but everyone else needs a few years to catch up. So I think this cold open is extraordinary. It's some of the best. It's one of the best sequences in this back half of the Friday
Absolutely,
films, I think. From start to finish.
Sadly, it comes in the first 10 minutes of this film, and then they have saddled themselves with what to do next. And
in my I tell you partly it's so attached to it because of how I first saw it, which is that I had the optimum viewing condition of seeing this as a late night movie and not knowing what the movie was. And this has like happened a couple of times to me in my life. One I've told you about was Escape from the Planet of the Apes. Well, I didn't know what was going to happen when those astronauts took the helmet off. So I didn't even know I was watching an Apes movie at that point. And similarly here, like, I didn't know this was a Friday the 13th movie, so then I see Jason and go, okay, I guess it's a Friday the 13th movie. Then finding out it's an FBI sting. I mean, that's the perfect preconditions of viewing for this opening sequence, isn't it? You know nothing about what's going on. You glom onto the fact that it's a Friday the 13th movie, and then even that is challenged in front of your eyes.
Mm-hmm. And then they do something, because, spoiler alert, they blow him up. I wrote it as the beating heart cold open of this movie.
Yes.
And then we go to the federal morgue in Youngstown, Ohio, which I thought was interesting because we're about to go Freddy versus Jason pretty soon. And I believe Elm Street was always supposed to be in Ohio. They talk about that in the...
Well, they knew they wanted to do that crossover, and
so it seemed on their minds, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, absolutely.
But then they do something that's interesting because they have mid-credit cold opens.
Yes,
they keep a little bit of a twist on the cold open / credits, where they continue the cold open within the credits.
Yeah, we get those. We get those. What do we call them? Lukewarm opens.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is where your point about how cheap the graphics look, and also how cheap the music sounds comes in. It's like early computer aesthetics for both.
Yes, right.
And it's kind of the cathartic shedding of that original 1980s shell, which is why it's so interesting that the cold open uses that aesthetic, because it immediately disappears from the movie at this point. Yeah,
right. Yeah, you're right. But if I remember correctly, it was that sort of dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun-dun.
Yeah, it's really bad. Yeah, and we're about to see, to that point, the first Friday the 13th movie made in the post-Silence of the Lambs movie world.
True.
Because obviously morgues have always been somewhat part of the formula, morgue scenes.
Mm-hmm.
So, Jason going to the morgue, there's nothing new there. But it becomes a forensic examination in a way that would not have been thinkable prior to the popularization of this idea in Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, I agree.
Because
and I always wonder when I see that
dictaphone,
right?
He's
everything
pulling stuff out of the mouth. It's like the 90s is when this forensic subgenre of horror kind of took off.
Mm-hmm.
Largely through the Thomas Harris novels.
Right. I mean, but you get it in mainstream. Even Seven has one of these scenes, right?
Right. Yeah. Completely.
Yeah.
And the movies kind of try to play both sides because we're analyzing Jason biologically whilst alluding to the fact that he might not be dead.
Yeah.
So they're examining his corpse at the same time, trying to at least seed the idea in the viewer's mind that he's not really dead. But all the evidence on screen is pointing to the contrary, even more than usual, by the way.
Well, on top of that, maybe it's a nod because, well, as we're about to find out, Jason's not going to be Jason for most of this movie, so we have Jason watching Jason. With
Kane Hodder as a security guard.
Yeah.
Now, this is the role he was born to play.
All right. If you know what I found interesting is that his death is off screen.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought to myself, he wouldn't allow somebody else to play Jason killing him, is my guess.
I think you're right.
Because what we should see is him getting killed by Jason, because that's fun for fandom. But I bet he was too much of a dick to let it pass.
I think I don't think that's too far of the mark of what could have possibly happened. But and it turns out he moves his head as much when he's not playing Jason.
I know, right?
I think somebody at some point in whatever quote unquote acting class he's taken said something like acting is reacting, and he just took it too literally.
To me, it almost seemed
he's
like
nothing but reacting.
It almost seemed to me like he was Kramer inspired from Seinfeld.
Yes.
Dun 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 dun.
Yeah. Well, we're saying that the Kane Hodder's right for this role, but I'd take Michael Richards over Kane Hodder in this part.
Plus, I feel like we trade up because we've got friend of the program, Rocky IV's Richard Gant, who's about to eat his gross, decaying heart.
First Black Jason.
Fucking great.
Yeah, well, this is where we do a big mythology rewrite.
Yeah, huge.
Even for this phase of the series, which is nothing but mythology rewrites.
Yeah, exactly.
Because Jason is now both he possesses people's bodies, and he's also kind of a zombie virus as well.
Mm-hmm.
Simultaneously, so. And this is basically the film's solution to we've got to have Jason but in another body. How do we do that?
Right.
Well, let's kind of turn it into a... possession... I've just been watching some early zombie films, and, zombie films started off as possession movies.
Yeah.
They're kind of using that idea to get Jason's... have Jason without Jason, acting without acting.
It's certainly a more direct route than the several times Halloween brings up evil as a virus.
Yeah.
That you catch like it's a cold.
That's true. And then, another big, we haven't heard much about what the rest of the world knows about Jason until now.
Mm-hmm.
There's a sense that his celebrity is veered maybe like beyond Crystal Lake, but there's never been a sense that it's kind of like crossed state limits or anything. Maybe like the local news covers him, but this makes it seem as if he's as famous in world as he is in the movies.
Right.
So the terms of Jason have been
Reshuffled.
adjusted to restart.
Yeah.
Restart the series because he's sort of public enemy number one. Literally, we saw the FBI stage what was a very elaborate and presumably expensive sting to catch him, and then this kind of poor man's media break, American Case File, that we're about to see the
Culp
parody of infotainment crime TV. Another great character actor, by the way.
Love him.
Richard Gant and Stephen Culp. 13 Days Bobby Kennedy, and really the only Bobby Kennedy that is worth your time in cinema, I think. I remember when I saw 13 Days, I was like, yes, that's how you play Bobby Kennedy, like Batman 66's Robin. That's perfect. There's even a point where he pumps his fist and goes, "Come on!" like that.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's just pure Burt Ward you did there. That's great.
Love it. Plus, he had a recurring role on The West Wing, and we have 2 West Wing actors in this movie. Because Vicky Smith, or no, not Vicky is the character, Allison Smith is the actor, and she played Leo McGarry's daughter.
Oh, interesting. Well, he also played a recurring role in a show that keeps coming up, which is Star Trek Enterprise.
Okay.
In the third season Xindi arc, which is the third and first couple of episodes of the 4th season, he plays a leader of a military team who set up on the Enterprise. It was their post 9/11 serial storyline.
I think there's an embarrassment of riches of character actors in this movie. Stephen Williams and Aaron Gray, Stephen Culp, even Rusty Schwimmer.
Leslie Jordan.
Yeah.
Leslie Jordan. The late Leslie Jordan. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's it's not necessarily that production values overall have lifted, but certain elements of filmmaking are elevated, and casting is one of them, I think.
Yeah.
We're pulling from a better pool of talent.
Sure.
Here. And Kane Hodder. But yeah, so American Case File, like I said, it's a poor man's media break. It's exposition dump.
Whilst
also
big time.
Kind of bridging old mythology with new mythology. It's our way of meeting Creighton Duke, who we saw disputing what was before his eyes in the cold open. And I guess that the modern archetype of the celebrity bounty hunter.
Yeah.
Which kind
like
of
a dog the bounty hunter kind of thing.
Yeah, it kind of glosses over what is his history with Jason? Like, why would he ever been hunting Jason Voorhees?
Yeah. My note. You said that we're kind of reintroducing, and my note was that they're setting the table for the new rules.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah. And there's a lot of having your cake and eating it as well, because when Richard Gant looks in the mirror, he sees Kane Hodder. Which is a sign that something's not right. When you're that good an actor and you look in the mirror and there's such a terrible actor in there, something's wrong. But it's sort of like, it's reminding the audience, it's like, we're not done with Jason.
Right. He'll be back. Stay
when
patient.
You look in the mirror.
Stay patient.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
And I wonder whether that was always they were always going to do that, or whether there was too much pressure to kind of frame the movie as a Jason movie.
I also, in terms of, speaking of framing, I like that Stephen Culp describes the episode he's about to do on television as a very special episode, when one of the kids from Home Improvement starts drinking or something like that.
Or the classic Bicycle Man 2-part episode of Different Strokes.
Yes.
Where Dudley gets molested.
Yep.
Which, created the infamous Dudley cough, where Dudley comes in naked apart from a towel and walks across the set, and all you can hear is someone in the audience go because it's not a laugh moment, but they're a sitcom audience, so they don't know what to do, so somebody just nervously coughs.
Oh fuck.
Yeah,
Well, I
and
tell you
it's-
what, we're getting deep into the beginning of the final Friday. We've got
into the beginning.
we've got a good start going. We've gotten through
Yeah.
our fake hard copy commercial. Why don't we take a break ourselves and come on back?
Well, spoiler alert: we're going back to Crystal Lake,
Yeah,
the real Crystal Lake, not the fake one the FBI
the
created in
FBI's
Connecticut.
created in Connecticut. All right, we'll take that break and we'll be right back, everybody, right after this.
I like to think I know something about beer, but nowadays even I get overwhelmed when confronted by the exhaustive selection of craft beers they have at bars, breweries, and even grocery stores. Back in the day you had one, maybe two craft beers to choose from, and if you were confused, you ordered a Guinness. But in beerstinations like San Diego, the craft beer options lately are in double, sometimes even triple digits. So what's a beer drinker to do? You need what I need, the Vegas Beer Guys. Your beer of choice should be a perfect blend of malt and hops. And so a live show about beer needs that same balance. And the Vegas Beer Guys matches beer expert Dan Aker with self-proclaimed beer novice Stephen J. Weiss. The results are eminently drinkable. They're on Facebook, they're on Instagram. They'll try new beers, they'll tell you about beer. Think of them as your beer Sherpas guiding you up a foamy-headed mountain to reach the peak of your pint. God, I need a beer.
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Tom and I are here talking Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday. The 1993 film directed by one young Adam Marcus. That title is weird. Because they can't use Friday the 13th, and it's just...
Well, you spoke to that in your intro,
Yeah.
and I think that's I'd never clocked that before until I saw it in Crystal Lake Memories.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, it's a decent hatchet job when those are, you know...
when you
those
have those
limitations.
restrictions, yeah.
Yeah. It's not great. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's nobody's first choice, but it's not as bad as it could be, which is pretty much this movie in a nutshell.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, my next note is that Creighton Duke, for some reason, braces a waitress.
Oh, troubling racial undertones is what I wrote about this scene. Like, obviously, it's pointing to the racism of small town life, which
Yeah.
is, you know, a known fact of reality, but also the racial stereotype, which is not true, of the prowess of black men is kind of at play too. So it's kind of fighting one. There's like one stereotype based on reality, and there's another based on pure racist myth.
Yeah.
So they are not equal.
I gotta
to
tell
each
you,
other.
Creighton Duke throughout this movie is constantly making choices that I don't understand.
Yeah.
He wants to get people on his side, but he does that by being menacing towards Aaron Gray as the waitress. He does that by breaking the fingers of Steven
Well, that
later in
scene-
this
yeah.
movie. None of it makes sense to me.
I think that scene is another Silence of the Lambs inspired set piece. I think they were just like, well, we got to have a scene in a jail cell because Silence of the Lambs won an Oscar.
You're probably right. If we do this, we might win an Oscar.
I genuinely think they had that discussion on set.
Oh my god, when he walks by the prison cell, is he... No, I think he's sitting down. How great would it be if Creighton Duke is just standing there like Lecter, but full cowboy get up with the
Well,
hat?
that's it's kind of what happens in the next movie when we first see Jason.
That's true.
He's full Hannibal Lecter then. But I know the other big poll which would work because it went off the air like a year before was this feels like Crystal Lake through the prism of Twin Peaks. Like it's kind of diner focused. It's
Yeah, I hadn't thought
kind
of
of
that, but
kooky
you're
and
right.
weird and dreamlike. There's there's kind of bounty. Well, there's not the we've seen the FBI elsewhere, but they're not here. But, the waitresses, and this kind of dark side of local life.
Absolutely.
So, but they're doing that thing that they do every sort of 3 or 4 movies, where it's like, oh, we should probably fill out the world of Crystal Lake again, forgetting that they did it like 3 movies ago.
Yeah, right.
And they go back to it, and it's completely different every time.
New diner,
Completely
who
different
dis?
Feel. New diner, who this? Yeah, and the Jason-themed burgers in the diner. So there's this kind of commentary, and again through the American Case File pastiche.
Yeah.
The celebritization of serial killers in the media is suddenly at play, and I don't think Halloween necessarily does it in 6, but by the time we get to Resurrection, it's all over the.
Yes.
It's all over the franchise. The same thing. It's like it's the media's fault that Jason is the way he is.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, and also I guess because I suppose this is another reset point, because the last movie ended in Manhattan, so we're kind of gradually via Connecticut taking it back to Camp Crystal Lake.
Right.
We go down an even more circuitous route than they took to get to Manhattan in the first place.
Well, here one of my next notes, because what's his name? The character I think is Stephen John D. LeMay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So one of the detracting points for this film to me is the final girl is barely in this movie.
Sure.
And we don't know anything about her other than what other characters talk about, because we're never seeing her on screen. And so this movie is lacking focus in that way, because we're not following anybody, really.
Correct.
We're following the TV guy, then we're following Creighton Duke. Now we're with the waitresses for a moment, but we're never told the crux of the story for quite some time, which has to do with Jessica Kimball and this guy Steven, and we're about to meet Steven, but the movie feels disjointed in how it's handling that portion of the story. Right?
Well, not just that portion of the story, because we change Jason's about every 3rd scene, so
right, yeah,
it's actually kind of complementary to this change, this continual.
That's interesting. Do you think that's on purpose then?
No.
Okay.
No, I think the idea of changing up who Jason is every few scenes is. I don't think they were like, well, let's let's do characterization badly elsewhere to complement this. I don't think that was that. I think they're just like, they just lost track of who. Well, it's because that's the reason that Twin Peaks is so good, is you've got a writer like Mark Frost who is able to handle multiple storylines, they set up the multiple storylines, but they have no idea how to manage them throughout the course of a single movie.
Because for the longest time in this movie, you think this is going to be a Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2 thing where we follow a boy.
Sure.
Because it feels like it's Steven's story for quite some time.
He gets the most, I think still by the end of the movie, he gets the most screen time.
Absolutely.
And, he even takes those the first campers that get killed. He takes them.
That's where we're at right now.
Yeah, he takes he gives them a ride, and then the odd, I don't know what.
Well, be more specific, Tom. We're talking about a ride in a car. It is a Friday the 13th movie.
It's a Friday the 13th movie. Some campers want a ride to the middle, the part of the woods where you get killed. Is basically where they've asked
so they
for
can
a ride to.
So they can ride each other, so Jason can appear.
And there's 3 of them, and 2 of them are couples. So there's this odd woman out, and
I never meet a woman this beautiful and charming and who wants to have sex with me immediately. Never.
Well, that's it. I mean, the idea that Steven is God's gift to women seems like a product of writerly wish fulfillment. I seem to remember Adam Marcus looks a lot like this character. And I think it's like when nerds make movies, nerds are hit on in those movies more than they are in life. So it's kind of taken as read. The campers get naked even quicker than in the parody version in the next movie.
Yeah, exactly.
They're immediate, like it's like you can't parody this stuff.
No.
It's beyond parody. And I don't know how ironic they're being. And I think there's a little bit of this is what happens in a Friday the 13th movie.
I think that's part of it, but they also take the time to add you're not having. It's not that you can't have sex. It's that you can't now. It's that you can't have. You have to have protected sex.
Yeah.
And they throw their condom away, and then they get it.
Yeah. Which I thought happened in the last movie, but I think it's this one that it happens in.
Yeah.
But something happens with condoms in the last movie, but I don't quite remember. And there is that postmodern irony of Stevens saying, gonna smoke some dope and have some premarital sex. I mean,
yeah.
That feeds into the parody in the next movie.
Yes, correct.
And the idea that dope plus premarital sex equals slaughter is at play. That convention is at play here. The safe sex slasher, so it's a slasher updated for the 90s with a message relevant to the 90s, which feels like something that happened a lot in the 90s. Everything had to be made relevant to the 90s.
Has to be made relevant to the 90s, but we're still seeing gratuitous boobs, so it's still connected to the 80s.
And this is where it's clear. This kill is clear that the MPAA has loosened its grip on censorship, because we see, the impaled, the body split open, the blood splatter. I feel sad for the 1980s that they lived under the yoke of.
And honestly, it's pretty good kill.
Yeah,
the woman is riding the boy in the tent, and she gets it through the chest, and that one shot of the blood splatter on his face is pretty horrifying. It's pretty good.
But it's infused with that sadness of what could have been if censorship wasn't such an issue in the last 3 or 4 movies, I think.
Certainly the last 2.
But censorship has its good points as well, like stopping scenes such as the next one being in any movie that isn't a porn. What the fuck is going on here?
Hard to say. But before we get there,
okay,
because we were talking earlier, the strengths of the movie, body horror wise, when Richard Gant kills that person in the morgue, there's that metal grate that he pushes his face against. That's a really good body horror moment. I liked that moment quite a bit. Anyway, just wanted to mention it. Let's get back to what you hate.
Yeah, that's it. Let's get through all the high points while we can. Well, I was saying I hate it. I think it's just literally obscene as having this kind of kinky ritual shaving scene.
It's odd.
That ends. It's kind of also, I mean, this is another mythology rewrite, because the occult dimension of Jason was never part of the mythology before.
No, right.
And this is the first sign of it, even in this movie.
But they talk about it in the Camp Crystal Lake Memories, and
they do, yeah.
I seem to remember the director saying, "Why is it in there? Who's to say? Put a little kink in there." And women have had their bodies objectified forever. So let's see a guy hooked up by the stirrups and shaved for whatever reason.
Well, for worm transfer, right?
Yes, yeah, exactly.
For worm transfer. I mean, and this is, Cronenberg will be in the next movie, but this is as Cronenberg as it gets, because the turd mouth worm is
the turd worm.
Is the one from David Cronenberg's Shivers, to all intents and purposes, and it even goes in the same orifice.
Well, it also feels like The Fly when she gives birth to that. It feels like that too.
Yeah. He's allowed to rip himself off. Other filmmakers are allowed to rip him off. So, it's very strange for a couple of different reasons. Although, I think to sort of take away the the kind of confusion they have. Jason throwing. They have a throwing of a Jason host out of the window at this point, and I'm like, okay, so it's like it's just trying to kind of remind the audience that we're still a Friday the 13th movie.
Just so you know, we are a Friday the 13th film, no matter what you might be thinking right now.
But also, because one of the hills they have to climb is that these non-Jason Jasons have to be Jason enough to keep the audience on their side.
I'll tell you this. One of the things that surprises me about this movie, I don't miss Jason a lot. I think all the actors that take on the Jason in this movie do a pretty good job.
They do, but I mean, I think the problem is not them by any means. It's that they have to turn Jason into something that he's not in order to make
of course,
device work.
Yeah,
and they have to rewrite all of the mythology to the point where it doesn't even need to be Jason Voorhees anymore.
Right, that's true.
And then Sister. He has a sister. R.I.P. The late great James Earl Jones.
Yes, lost him.
And they add in a little bit of Halloween mythology rewriting here. Because there's the idea of rebirth through a family member. Wasn't that in Halloween 6 as well? Wasn't that part of the... Which is also
not rebirth,
the first time...
but...
Also the first time that Michael Myers becomes linked to the occult.
Yeah.
So we're kind of parallel in terms of where the franchise mythologies are. They're now leaning into black magic as a way to propagate the series.
By the way, we didn't mention this. We didn't mention this in the last episode, but the last I believe it was 1988 that Jason Takes Manhattan came out, and that was the first time that all three franchises had a movie come out.
The same year.
Same year, yeah.
Wow.
So that's fun.
That's interesting trivia. Yeah. I don't think none of them were doing. Well, what was the '88 Halloween? Was that 4?
4, yeah.
Well, that's one of the better ones.
Yeah, exactly.
And what was the Nightmare one?
I want to say Dream Child, but I'm not sure if that's right. Might have been the next one. And I forget the order of the back half of that series, frankly.
No, we will have plenty of time to talk about that in 12 months' time.
In the coming years.
Yeah, in the coming years. We won't get to that one for 2 years. So Jason's got a sister.
And it is Aaron Gray.
Aaron Gray.
Now, wait. Confession time.
Oh.
Gonna say 5th grade. I don't think there's anybody I loved more in the world than Aaron Gray. Buck Rogers in the 25th Century, Silver Spoons. I'm pretty sure I had a picture of Aaron Gray in my little 10-year-old 5th grade boy wallet with Velcro.
You don't have to.
So, huge treat to see Aaron Gray in this movie so long after my first love of her.
That's great.
Yeah. Delighted.
Well, that would have been a nice surprise for you.
Mm-hmm.
But this is... I mean, I know it was the last film where we had a Dynasty cast member, but this feels very, like, soap opera, primetime soap opera, because it's like, who's the father of this child?
Right.
We've got these family, we've got secret brothers and sisters. It's more complicated. It's more complicated than it needs to be, which is what happens when you try and do Twin Peaks without talent.
Well, not just that, because we talk about all the things that this series apes or borrows or steals from, but Sister, I mean, that's direct Halloween reference to me.
Yeah,
too.
No, completely. And that, I guess, I always give the Halloween plagiarism a pass, because it feels like it's been doing that from the very first sequel.
Yeah, right.
Isn't it like the first shot of Jason in Friday the 13th Part 2 is pure Michael Myers walking down the street?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think an inspiration, there's an inspiration for the couple who run the diner from within the series itself, which is in part 5, the crazy mother-son duo.
Yeah.
But also, they feel like John Waters level characters in the middle of this what up to this point has been a small town detective movie.
Right.
There's a little bit of pink flamingos about them.
Yes.
And one of them's Leslie Jordan as well.
So good.
And again, the Halloween plagiarism doesn't end because now we have the Voorhees house, which has never been a thing before.
That's never been a thing, right?
But it's definitely something that was in Halloween from the very beginning, was the idea of the Myers house. So
yeah.
It's kind of like where plagiarism meets retconning.
Yeah, right. Right.
The worst of both worlds. Yeah, and it's all... So there's a satanic book now?
Yeah, well, my note there's a satanic book
again,
now.
Well, it's all new, isn't it? We've
that
never
lines
seen how to hide no hair of this book before.
Right. That lines up perfectly with my next note, which is the rules are coming hot and fast.
Oh, yeah. Unless this is the book that Tommy has in 6, but I don't think it is.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't he just check those out from the library? Aren't they just like standard
he was also checking the internet a lot, I remember, but...
In part 6?
Yeah.
No, that's Halloween 6. Oh, yeah. I mean,
I was talking Halloween 6. You're talking Friday 6?
Yeah, Tommy Jarvis. When Tommy Jarvis, because he finds an occult book, doesn't he?
Oh, yes, that's right. Yeah.
It's not the same book. It can't be the same book.
No, I don't think so.
Because that was just standard.
This is a whole new mythology.
I need a spell to put a guy at the bottom of the lake. Book.
Right.
How to send a guy to the bottom of the lake in 10
Not
minutes.
a how to stop him from reanimating himself book.
Exactly. And but this is where...
Through the use of his sister.
But this is where Halloween 6 goes at exactly the same time. And you're right, it is lots of... Tommy Wallace, different Tommy.
Yeah, I heard Tommy, so...
So, you're not wrong. Wow, that's crazy that they're both called Tommy. And they're both in about the same number of movies in each series as well. Like what? Tommy Wallace is in...
Well, he's in the original.
3 Halloween movies? He's in the original. He's in part 6.
6, and then in the remakes.
And then in only Halloween Kills, right?
Yeah, I guess it's just the second one.
And then there goes a trilogy. Just like Tommy Jarvis.
That's amazing.
It is kind of amazing.
If you just choose to watch it through Tommy, you just watch those 3 movies.
It's just like, pick a different fucking name. Come on. How lazy can you get?
Oh, man.
So, yeah, and then Campbell, a.k.a. Stephen Culp, turns out to be our...
Big Dick.
Yeah, our big dick of the movie. Jason. Well, I guess
my note.
That was the thing. The thing is that with the change in mythology, it means that he has to die. Now he has to die in a pleasingly fun way, but Jason can't do it to him because he is Jason.
Right.
So now it's got to come from external forces.
Yeah, I wrote he talks of plans of major dickish behavior.
Yeah. And they're also questioning the culpability of the media.
I'll expect your resignation by the end of the day.
I have it written out here already for whenever you need it.
Don't forget the suicide note.
I just white out the date every time.
Why do I keep rehiring you? I know why, because you're fantastic.
Thank you. This is another superb prosthetic moment because we get the melting Jason host. Who is it? Who I didn't write down.
I think it was the cop.
Jason melts the cop. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
So this is good prosthetics,
and it was fantastic. I couldn't believe a movie that generally looks this cheap, or as cheap as it does, looked that good in that moment.
Yeah, that's true. And also, to speak up for the movie at this point, when Jessica is escaping from the house, there's some good old-fashioned suspense that's uncontaminated by irony or metatextuality.
Yeah.
Maybe the first time in the entire movie, and it's like it reminds you that basic horror filmmaking really works. If you just strip down to the basics, it's always gonna land.
Yeah, exactly. It'll always land. And also you have, a young kind of novice director, but who in moments can bring those goods.
Yeah.
So
I think he's got a few moments like that.
yeah.
Oh, and there's hardly there's a turd worm going into people's mouths and turning them into Jason Voorhees.
Very
I hardly
often.
need to mention this
Too often.
this inconsistency, but we have a pretty lengthy scene in which Steven's two of his fingers are broken, and he seems to be able to use his hands fine.
No
for
problem.
The rest of the movie.
Yeah.
No problem. Yeah.
My
So-
note was when Creighton Duke says, he says, "Give me your hand."
Mhm.
You should just say no.
Yeah.
And no, I'm in this cell. You're in that cell. I will not give you my hand. Thank you.
Oh yeah. Speaking to good filmmaking, there's a split foreground background shot when Campbell / Jason is breaking into the police station,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a good visual idea, but they cut away from it very quickly, and I'm like, no, if you're gonna do that, you don't need editing. That's why you do it. So there's a novice element to that. It's like good instincts, but remember, this has all got to make sense as a sequence as well. Like you've got to
Sure.
you do less editing if you're gonna make that choice, not more.
You said the person as Jason. How did you write it in your notes? Because there were times where I put quotes Jason, and then I started doing things like putting Culp Jason and Gant Jason, and
Yeah.
if I didn't know the actor's name, then I would put I put Cop Jason.
To be honest, I didn't even put Jason in at all by that
Okay.
point. I feel like I'd be giving the movie too much credit.
Well, that's the thing that interested me, though, is that
Because it's not even Jason anymore. It's just a turd worm. The turd
but
mouth
it is.
worm.
It's his essence, Tom.
Well, that's new too.
His evil essence.
Right. Yeah.
That makes it sound like it's a spray bottle. You just
Yes, it's- Well, that would have been interesting. Essence of Jason. You just spray it on your wrists, and suddenly you're grabbing.
no, you
machetes out
spray
of
it in the
nowhere.
air and walk through it.
And it comes out of the spray bottle going, kill, mama.
Yes, perfect. We're rewriting gold, I tell you.
Right. Yeah, so this attack on the police station, first of all, those cops must have heard the gunfire while they were still in the bathroom, so at least one of them zipped up before they went outside and tried to help. It's like in that situation, you can just have your swinging dick out. I mean, who cares? It's like, well, this is life or death, guys.
This police station scene, it reminded it. Well, what I wrote down in my notes was that it felt like First Blood light.
Yes. Yeah, very much so.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, completely. And there's some neat visual ideas here.
And also Terminator, now that I think about it. It also
Yeah.
had that Terminator vibe.
Definitely, both of those. There's some neat visual ideas, like they do the bullet hole point of view,
Yeah.
which is a nice idea. But again, it's like too rapid or haphazard for it to stand out in the scene.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's more like just throwing visual ideas at the wall, but not having the ability to kind of manage those in the flow of the scene, which is what direction is. So it's just a novice thing that probably.
I was gonna say it felt like one of those young director things where he says to himself, "I have a very cool idea," but to his credit, it looks and feel as because it's so singular that it does mess with flow.
Yeah.
But it looks and feels better than, say, Jaws teeth coming out at the end of Jaws 3D.
Does it? Is it? I don't feel like I should agree with that. I see what you're saying. I feel like that would contradict something I've said long ago if I agree to that. That's a good movie.
Even my 11-year-old self, who thought that's exactly what I wanted to see, was teeth coming out at me upon seeing that, went, oh, that doesn't look cool.
Okay, well that's the litmus test, then, isn't it? I mean, if an 11-year-old is giving you notes, then you know he didn't quite stick the landing. And this is where I noticed the kind of Tarantino style dialogue. It's fucking this and fucking that. There's like three fuckings for every line, and that's the mid-90s, right? This is what when movies thought they were cool if they did this,
right?
If they had a lot of fucking in them. And again, it's about the artistry with which you do that. So, you know, Reservoir Dogs or Goodfellas, right? They can have this amount of obscene language, but it's artfully woven into the movie. But this just feels like trying to get as many... It's like they're trying to get
as many fucks,
yeah.
Right.
You know, the fuck count of Goodfellas was arbitrary. They weren't aiming for that number.
Yeah,
this feels
exactly.
like they're aiming for a particular number. You fucking mutt fuck, you fuck. The timing of the smashing of the glass. Yeah. Go get your fucking shine bud. You motherfucking butt.
Yeah, but he doesn't say one fucking dog face this way, the other fucking dog face.
No, that's true. That's the distinction. That whole scene is like whenever I rewatch the bar scene with Frank Vincent in Goodfellas, I think it's like watching an opera.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that good. It's like people on different sides of the stage singing to each other, and like the way. Anyway, and I'm sure that's deliberate because it's Scorsese, but.
Well, what I was going to say was there's this secondary story with Steven getting arrested and his buddy telling him, don't worry. And then even before the cop...
Oh, the cop, yeah.
The shootout scene inside the police station. I love that he gets thrown out, or he's hanging on that car, Steven is, and somebody takes off and he just... gets kind of thrown out in the dirt, and then that deputy drives out like 15 minutes later, and he's just still sitting in the dirt.
Yeah.
But there's that secondary story of them battling with each other, and
characters.
Yeah, Steven all of a sudden out of nowhere seems to become kind of a Van Damme Seagal character with his fighting skills. So it might lean towards your nerd logic.
Yes, completely.
That you were saying before, that they're so capable and so charming and so handsome.
It's just taken as read, right? That's the nerd guy, not anyone else in the movie. But there's also because there's the diner owner's son, who's like a non-threatening version of the biker from part 5. Because he has interchanges with Steven as well, where he kind of lets him escape, and
exactly.
There's just too many kind of soap-like connections between, like it's like watching an hour soap opera condensed into half an hour of movie. It's really strange. I don't know really what they're going for, except like a version of Twin Peaks, or something like that. But it's kind of antithetical to the movie they're making, because it doesn't feel like a slasher.
Yeah.
At all.
I have to tell you,
it's slowing the slasher down, if anything.
I got to tell you, I got a glimpse into the way my own brain works when you said it's got that soap kind of like dimension.
Yeah.
My brain immediately went to Robert Guillaume and not soap operas.
Oh, okay.
Show soap.
Yeah. Well, the two are, they have some connective tissue.
That's good. I tell you what, why don't we take a final break and then we'll come back.
Suddenly we're nearly at the end.
Yeah. Well, I think I have a little bit more to say about that attack in the cop station, but I'll save it.
Okay.
We'll take a break and come back.
Absolutely, and then we'll finish up with this late sequel to The Omen.
Perfect. Right after this, everybody. Does the coronavirus have you feeling oogie? Have you been sitting on your couch for weeks? Nay, have you been sitting on there for months? Well, it's time for you to get back in shape. Check out 2AT Fitness. You can find them on Instagram. You can find them on Facebook. 2AT Fitness was started by Tina Bernard. She is ready and raring to go to help you get back into the shape you want to get into. They've got all kinds of classes. They've got outdoor in-person classes. They've got online classes if that's what you prefer. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to get back in shape. You're going to find a variety of exercises. You're going to have strength training, cardio, weightlifting, even fun 5-minute burnouts that will push you to your limits. So get off the couch, get into shape. Go ahead and check out 2AT Fitness. Tina Bernard has got you for all your needs. I know her personally. She's fantastic. You're not going to meet a better person to help you become the new you. Check it out. And we're back once again, everybody. Tom and I are here finishing up with whatever this movie's called.
Something about Friday going to hell.
Yeah.
Friday,
the
Friday,
final
I'm in
something,
love.
the hell something.
Jason Goes to Hell. Friday, I'm in love. That's what it is.
Well, there was one other thought that occurred to me about this police station scene, and the way Stephen Culp portrays his Jason. It feels to me as though he's really aping on Terminator 2.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can see that.
The way he's walking and everything, that feels very Robert Patrick to me.
It's a good choice performance-wise.
Yeah,
As good as any, given what you've got.
considering what you have to do.
Yeah, I mean, you think Kane Hodder was coaching any of them on how to do Jason?
Oh, I'm sure he was attempting it left and right.
Unsolicited, I'm sure.
Unsolicited.
Yes. But my question is, do you think the director permitted him to actually do it?
No, well, I would like to think any right-minded person kept saying, Kane, you're not even on the list today. You don't have to be here.
Yeah.
Why don't you
right.
take in a movie?
Yeah.
Go to a bar.
Chase him away with an open flame.
Back, I said.
It's a good job he wasn't in Freddy versus Jason, because you wouldn't believe that he was supposed to be afraid of water and not fire.
Well, plus they do have to light him on fire.
Yeah.
In that cornfield maze.
Oh yeah.
Well, not maze, just a cornfield. Yeah.
Yeah. Cornfield rave.
Yeah, rave.
That's what. Yeah, I buy that totally. Also, we have when they get into the diner, we have unintentionally funny slow motion, and then they do intentionally funny slow motion right afterwards. So we have both ends of the slow.
Wait, remind me.
Well, so basically, as characters are leaping over the tables, the film slows down.
Oh, yeah, okay, I remember that.
Which is funny, but I don't think was supposed to be. I think it was supposed to be suspenseful.
Yeah.
And then you have Leslie Jordan mouth "oh shit" in slow motion.
Yes, that's right.
And
that's
then that was so it's interesting that you have both. You have slow motion not working on different levels.
And that was a new beat for Friday the 13th, if I remember correctly. You don't see a lot of kills in the series. Well, I guess the last series with the head coming off, that's more a Rocky cheer moment.
You mean in Manhattan with the
the
boxing? Yeah.
With the boxing the head off. But the punching the mouth closed and sort of the caved in, the kind of puckered mouth thing. It seems like they were going for the joke there.
For sure, yeah. and everything is covered in blue light, which is the major color of all light sources in 90s movies come out blue. And also, you know, the overlit foreground of the mid-90s movie.
Mm-hmm.
This, you know, where you can see the dust in the air, and it's like, well, yeah, because that's overlit. You shouldn't be able to see that.
You got a real problem with dust in the air.
Well, it's in this period where it clearly the filmmakers are overlighting the foregrounds for no obvious aesthetic reason. But so Jason, this is where I made the comment about this being a late sequel to The Omen, because he's killed by a glowing knife.
Right.
He has to be stabbed in the back, a la Damien in The Omen.
Well, I mean, we got other stuff going on before that comes up.
Okay, tell me about it. I didn't make any notes on anything.
Oh, okay. Well, we're in the diner. We still got plenty going on. With Mama gets killed. The son gets killed outside the diner. Mama gets killed, and Pop gets killed in the diner. And Allison Smith, Vicky, she has got a shotgun at some point. But Stephen Culp's just going through everybody.
Yeah.
Allison Smith, second woman I fell in love with, as I fell in love with her character as Leo McGarry's daughter on The West Wing. Loved her.
Wow. This movie was made for you, apparently.
Yeah, I had all kinds of stuff going on watching this movie.
They ruined their what little critical reputation they had by making a movie for Mike Shantz. Well, I want to talk a little bit about.
But isn't there a moment too where? Sorry, there's a moment where. Oh no, that's back in the police station where the two cops enter and there's only.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's.
Without zipping up.
Well,
they zipped up and then came in and it was too late.
Well, there's somebody stabs the good Jason by accident.
Oh well, this is coming up. The good Jason. I think that's it. That really you really are kind of pulling from Twin Peaks there.
Yeah.
The good Dale is in the lodge. The good Jason is in the diner.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I was going to talk about the booby-trapped house.
Yeah.
Because again, not only is the house a new addition, but also the idea that Jason's hiding out in it.
Mm-hmm.
And creating like an obstacle course.
Right.
This doesn't feel very Jason at all.
Like he's home alone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But the the killing of the good Jason, as you call it. I mean, this is a test of fandom, isn't it? Because Jason, as a hardcore fan, you'd know that it would be too bigger. I guess in this movie, maybe not, but it would be jumping the shark to hear Jason speak.
Yeah, right.
Even in a host body.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a test of fandom that's your clue that this is not really Jason, because Jason, and up until this point, when the turd worm gets in people's bodies, they can't communicate. So
right,
it's setting that up. And then, so it's been a turd worm up to this point, and it kind of in this scene becomes a mammalian creature. Am I remembering that correctly? So it's and again done very, like, the special effects done really well.
Yeah.
But we don't need Jason changing form once again.
Right.
He's had enough form changes in this movie. We don't need him to turn into like a fox as well. At this point, there's something in this scene I wanted to ask you about, seeing if you had any context for it. At some point, you can see like a wooden box in the background, and it says on it "Arctic Expedition Julia Carpenter."
I just thought that was a reference to The Thing.
Okay. Well, my sense was it was cross-referencing of another New Line property, or like seeding a future crossover with something.
That's interesting.
Could be. I mean, I actually that makes sense more in terms of intertextuality, because the transformation of the turd worm into a turd fox or whatever happens
Turd fox.
But that's very much like The Thing, isn't it? That
Yeah.
the scene where when it's the that would make sense. But I was just like, is this a whole nother side of the mythology that they were trying to kind of like seed somewhere in the franchise?
Also, because at some point, she stabs the wrong cop, but then the true Jason kind of vomits out the creature, the bad Jason, which gets into Aaron Gray's dead vagina.
Oh, it's an orifice inversion, isn't it? It's been going in through the mouth, and now it goes in through the. Oh, well, you said vagina. I assumed it was the butt, but it doesn't really matter.
Still, she didn't like it no matter what. To hear her talk about it, she didn't know that was going to happen. The actor Aaron Gray didn't know that was going to happen when she went to the premiere of the movie.
Oh, that's right.
It's like, what the fuck is this?
Oh my god! It reminds me of just watched a Roger Corman documentary, and Jack Nicholson talks about how the producers of The Trip changed the ending without ever consulting Corman to make it an anti-drugs ending. Yeah, a pro-drugs movie gave it an anti-drugs ending and didn't tell him.
Oh my god!
So I guess there are worse things, but this feels like to me like they're inconsistent with their own new mythology. Like they created a whole new mythology, and they can't stay consistent with their own rules, because
within it,
does it go in the mouth? Does it go up the butt? What is it? Why is it a worm again?
Yeah, make up your mind, people.
But they've got to get the turd worm in her, so she can become Jason, and then we can reset to original recipe Jason.
To original recipe Jason, exactly.
So at least he's framing the movie.
I also
Given
feel
that he is the first word of the title is his name.
Right. I also feel like Creighton Duke gets kind of short-shrifted in this movie, because you have such a great actor, a certainly colorful character, and he's always like behind bars or on the periphery.
Yeah. The movie doesn't know what to do with him, and it's. Again, I wonder whether it's like they needed him in the cold open so the audience knows that Jason's not dead. But beyond that, is he needed in any other part of the movie? Not really.
No. That's the thing, though, but I want him more present. I expected a bigger showdown in this moment that kind of turns into nothing, like Jason just kills Creighton Duke.
I would kind of like, I think...
And then he's like throwing Steven around on the jungle gym outside, and I thought, man, we're focusing on this jungle gym quite a bit. What's going on there?
I think that they should have used Creighton Duke to continue the idea of the movie as a police procedural. And a detective film. Yeah. And it's interesting that that's what it starts off as, because obviously you get the FBI sting, and that's the last time we see any of them.
Yeah, they're just done.
So
because they were all working for Creighton Duke, wasn't he there too?
He was there, but I think he was just watching from the sidelines.
Oh, okay.
Because I
thought they made it seem like he was in charge of them for some reason.
That wouldn't make it. I mean, even in this movie, that wouldn't make sense. They're the FBI.
I know, but it is still this movie.
But isn't there tension between him and law enforcement in general? Like any bounty hunter?
Oh, you're speculating now about the life outside of this movie that we weren't shown? Fantastic.
Yeah.
I don't know why. The movie doesn't inspire you to do that.
No, it doesn't at all. Well, like you said, I want to know more about Creighton Duke, and I think he could have been a used well as a through line for the movie, as a kind of sleuth, kind of through line. But which is what the movie sets him up as, but actually never uses him for that.
Yeah,
at any
right.
point.
Yeah.
But like the cold open sets that up, and then the opening scenes after the titles reaffirm that.
I mean, really, he's used twice for exposition dumps.
Yeah. Maybe that's it. Maybe they needed Basil exposition. Well, I mean, it could well be.
Now we're at the slow motion,
Yeah.
glowing dagger heart stab, sir.
Well, no, I mean, but we introduced the idea before. It's like, this is how you kill Jason. You stab this glowing dagger into his.
Also,
back
what's
for
the
some
deal?
reason.
What's the deal with Creighton Duke throwing like a dagger on the floor and then it turns into more of a saber? Like it just grows all by itself.
I guess because nothing matters anymore in terms of mythology. They've crossed
It's
so
just
many
in the
lines
presence
at this point.
of the last living relative, so it grows
Yeah,
into what
there
it
you go.
needs to be. All right.
That's as good an explanation as any I heard.
Also, consider like bringing up the topic of conversation that I was talking about earlier. We haven't talked about Jessica Kimball one lick in this movie, and she's about to kill Jason.
Yeah, well, it's all very muddy. She left and it's so coincidence driven because. Oh well, actually, wait. Does it turn out that Campbell was specifically started dating her so he could exploit the Jason?
That's not
story?
real. Yeah, I think they do answer that. I think.
Are we working harder than the movie again? I think we
Yeah,
might be.
maybe. Well,
Because
when he has his
It's
confessional,
awfully convenient that they're
when he
a
has
couple.
he has his confessional where it sort of announces to the audience how big a piece of shit he is.
Yeah.
He has that thing that says, no, this is what I got to do, and then we're going to do that, and then we'll have the biggest ratings ever. So it does feel as though the relationship itself was part of his plan. He doesn't say that directly, but
No. He's
I
lucky that
inferred it from
she left-
context clues.
Yeah. She left town, went to LA, Washington. Where's he based?
One of those.
And apparently just turned up at his door saying, "Can I be your girlfriend?" But I was confused as to who was like, because there's the other way. This is how redundant so many of the characters in this movie. There's that other waitress who for a while feels like another sister, but then nobody says anything about her being related to anyone. You go, okay,
To anyone at all, ever. Yeah.
She's just the other way, because she's the one cleaning up the blood, right? When after Erin Gray's killed.
Well,
when the daughter comes
that's
home.
still that's Allison Smith. That's
But wasn't it? No, but it's her waitress friend.
Yeah.
Because she gets home with the baby, Steven's baby. It's so
God
fucking
damn
soap
it.
opera. It's Days of Our Lives. Steven comes back with the baby. She comes back with Steven's baby, and then the waitress in the diner is clearing up the blood as if. I
Yes.
mean, she has that sort of Shelley Norma relationship from
Yeah.
Twin Peaks, where they're not actual family, but they're the closest
closest
friendship.
thing they have, and she's trying to clean up the blood.
But they all
before-
look like each other, so I'm going,
yeah,
maybe
right.
she's a sister too. I don't
No,
know.
she's not. She's just trying to clean up the blood before the real daughter gets home, so she didn't have to see it.
Yeah. So that's why we're not talking about it, because it's just contrivance after contrivance, and
Mm-hmm.
none of it is particularly clear or satisfying. And then essentially the rest of the movie is just Jason going in and out of windows, which is fine by me.
Yeah,
I mean,
fine with that.
That's what I came here for. But you really would, if you'd only seen this film, you'd be like, "Wow, is that what Jason Voorhees does? He just jumps in and out of windows." Okay,
Right.
And I guess it's not untrue, but you might be limiting yourself a little bit. And it's interesting, like when the Hell Dagger, when it comes in from the back, it feels like Jason's signature move used against him, as if this is like a wrestling match. You know, the guy who normally hits someone over the head with a chair
The
is
chair?
the one who gets hit on the head by a chair. You know,
Yeah.
It feels like that kind of a moment.
Well, I like too because she.
What do you think of Jason's hair when he returns from the? Oh, go on.
Well, I was gonna say.
Finish what you're saying, because the hair conversation is a longer one.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, because she jumps up from behind him and stabs him
Yeah.
slow motion style in the heart with the dagger.
Mm-hmm.
And that I have that moment where I think, that's it. Jason has been vanquished. But then later she's got to karate kick it deep into the chest to make, before whatever the magic the dagger holds kind of starts up like a motor, you know?
It's very Pop-Up Pirate, if you've ever played that game, you know. When you...
Oh, I thought that was like a pop-up book kind of reference.
I've been because I play Pop-Up Pirate quite a lot with my son, and there's occasionally a time where you're like, it gets down to the last one, and then you put the sword in, and it still doesn't pop out, and then you realize you've only put it halfway, and then you smack it, and then it comes firing out of the barrel. That's what this felt like.
Okay.
Yeah, whenever they introduce new bullshit mythology into a movie and then start to second guess themselves, I think that's hilarious, because it's like, this is all your own invention, and you can't even.
You can do whatever you want.
Yeah, you could do whatever you want. They're like, no, it's got to go all the way in the back. It's like, up until this movie, a hell dagger would have made no difference to Jason's life or death.
Right.
Yeah. So Jason's hair.
Yeah,
he's
go
got
ahead.
long hair. He's got long hair for, I think, the first time. Have we ever seen him with long hair before? It's very stringy.
No. Yeah, you're right.
And I was wondering, is it because he was reborn through his sister who had long hair? Or
I love that.
Did they and I think this is the more likely explanation, they forgot to give Kane Hodder a hairnet.
Oh.
For the sequence.
I like that.
I think both are possible, or it's a choice, or the third option is it's just straight up choice.
Yeah, you know what's more possible? Kane Hodder came out with it like that. Just talked to a makeup person in the chair, said, "Make my long hair look dirty," and the director was like, "Kane, we've never had this before in any. This is what I'm doing. This is the way it's gonna be.
Yeah, exactly.
It's my process. I'm Kane Hodder."
I made my bones when you were going out with cheerleaders.
Exactly. I got chunks of guys like you in my stool. I believe that's Phil Hartman as Frank Sinatra on an SNL skit.
Oh, I love the Frank Sinatra. I love the Frank Sinatra SNL. And you introduced me to his Reagan behind the scenes Reagan, which is
so funny.
And the more I read about Reagan, the better that is.
Yeah, exactly.
And is Phil Donahue. If you've ever
loved
seen
his Phil Donahue.
Phil Donahue in front of Phil Donahue on Donahue. That's some crazy shit. Because you have an audience full of people who do not know how to react.
Right.
Because their favorite thing in the world, Phil Donahue, is being stripped down to parts before their eyes.
When Phil Hartman would do that head droop as Phil and the head shake.
Yeah. Ironically, he was the best. he was the best of all of those talk show hosts. So
yep,
actually did quality content. So Jason is dead,
vanquished,
vanquished, and so we have the demon hand coming out and dragging him to hell, which is good creature puppet horror, but it does seem like fairly mild compared to what they had planned. Wasn't that something that came up in Crystal Lake Memories, that they had a much more elaborate sequence planned, and they ended up being one hand?
Yeah, you're right.
They kind of cut down to
but it's more than one hand. There's
there's a few. Sorry, there's a few
there's
hands.
Lots of branches. I mean, it's dragging Steven too.
They planned to do lots of demons, like demon creatures.
Right.
And it ended up just being hands.
It was hands because they did have plans for heads and torsos and a lot more coming up out of the ground.
Well, that's good. And the spotlight closes around his head as he goes to hell.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, like in Looney Tunes. And then he winks at the camera like Porky Pig. And That would have been amazing. If that...
Good night, folks.
Ain't I a stinker? Yeah, and then another happy couple ending, just like part 7, except one that was clearly not filmed with the actors present.
You're right. I did notice there's this moment where I can't remember what happens, because does Steven just say, "Okay, I'll go. I'm going to leave you alone"? Because there's this moment where before she says, "No, of course we'll be together." There's this shot on Jessica where she just kind of went, yeah. like
that would be...
I'm perfectly resigned to you walking out of my life forever.
It reminds me of a great Rockford Files episode I just watched, which is one of the 2 that features Tom Selleck. If you're a Tom Selleck fan, it's some of his
Indeed,
best
I
work.
am.
But basically, like the bit of his episodes is exactly the same. He's the slick version of Rockford. Everything goes right for him, and everything goes wrong for Rockford when they're working together. And like Rockford ends up solving this big case and saving this millionaire's daughter's life. And Tom Selleck ends up getting married to her and inheriting the family fortune.
Tons of money.
So the father. At the wedding, the father turns to Rockford and says, "You played a big part in this. It's like, I should offer you some reward." And Garner turns around and he's sort of like, "Oh, no, I couldn't accept that." Like a fake refusal. And then the dad goes, "Okay, fine, just thought I'd ask." And then walks away.
So good.
He's just left there with nothing. Yeah, but so they walk away into the sunset, and then...
Oh, I put the sunrise, sir. I think
sunrise, okay, there you go. Yeah. And then we get to the real agenda of this movie.
In the waning seconds of this movie, we get to what they wanted to
find
get
out what
to
the movie was really about.
Yeah.
Which, in its defense, feels way ahead of the game in terms of multiverse building in franchise movies.
Yeah.
Like the foresight to when you watch Crystal Lake Memories, I built it up into my head as kind of like, like a sort of
a calling card for literally, we have a plan, this is what'll happen next, blah blah blah.
Yeah,
blah,
what's his name? Kevin Feige, kind of like MCU putting the pieces together, like, kind of putting little fragments in each movie, that kind of thing. But
you don't mean the director, you mean
Kevin do I mean Kevin Feige, the guy in charge of the MCU, the overall, isn't that Kevin Feige?
Yeah. No, that is. I thought you meant the version of that here, and I'm like, well, Mancuso left, so I don't know who the fuck that would be.
No, I mean, like, that sort of Kevin Feige vision of, as we make the movies, we'll piece together the fictional universe.
Yeah.
And that, that seems to be what they're seeding here. But when you hear the director talk about it,
it's just like, hey,
sounds like a total afterthought, like a total like. Hey, know what?
Then
New Line
I
has?
thought
Freddy. Yeah. Then I thought, what? New Line's got Freddy, and it's like, did I not read that they were planning on this? That was why Jason went to New Line, so they could do the crossover. So I don't know who to believe.
It did seem more accidental than anything else.
It's also, I guess, it's their official welcome to the New Line family, isn't it? To be dragged into hell by Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, sure, right.
But it also feels very Looney Tunes as well. It feels like, when they have the crossovers between the Looney Tunes characters.
And also, I mean, because I had no sense back then that they ever, I never heard about a Freddy Jason crossover back then. It was never in the zeitgeist. It was never anything anybody was talking about. So even though the first time I watched this movie was just last year, it feels really out of left field.
Yeah.
Combining these two and having his hand and come out.
Especially when you have to wait several years and an entire movie to get there.
Yeah, true.
this is more like when Kevin Feige introduced, what was the name, Kang the Conqueror, and then the actor went and beat up a woman, or beat up and raped a woman, or both.
No.
And they had this character because it was in one of the Ant-Mans that they introduced him, I think. Jonathan, what was his name? He was in Creed 3.
Yeah. I'm not going to remember his
something.
name. Yeah.
But anyway, he was cast as an infinite number of characters for future MCU
projects
films,
that all fell to shit.
He got cancelled, and so basically, not only couldn't they use him, but he was going to play like hundreds of characters.
Mm-hmm.
So they lost the entire thing. I mean, eventually they do Freddy versus Jason. So I guess it pays.
But
off.
it's a decade later. I mean, it's a long ass time.
Yeah. It is, yeah. It's the kind of multiverse building that companies are desperate to do now. Like, Universal trying to build their Monsters library.
Yeah,
and
right.
DC with the Justice League.
But they hired Tom Cruise first, so it all fell to shit. Right.
Well, it's the thing. It's like it's hard to do, and I wonder whether the fact that they sort of threw it in as an afterthought is the best possible scenario, because it's a promise, but if they don't make good on the promise, no one is particularly going to be pissed.
Yeah.
In the same way that they would be if you introduce a Marvel character who never appears again or something.
Mm-hmm. What the hell did I see it in the end credit for? This is what they,
Yeah, exactly.
That's the attitude now, yeah. All right, well, how about a credit check?
Yeah. So, one of the campers is credited as the boy camper. I understand why we might want to distinguish the two women, but I believe he was the only male camper, so that boy is a little redundant. Also, he's very clearly a 40-year-old man. Boy is also not right. Stunt players, Charles Picerni Jr. and Senior, another one of those father-son stuntman teams we've seen so many of. Love it. I don't know why so many father-son duos in the world of stunt work. Mechanical effects, Bellissimo, Bellardino, Tom Bellissimo. At which point, I want to ask, did the person writing the credits have a stroke? Because I don't know if those are names of people, exclamations, stage names. They're all the same name, just written differently. Well, with this credit check, we've answered our own question about what Kane Hodder was doing when he wasn't playing Jason, because he's listed as stunt coordinator.
Stunt coordinator, I remember seeing that, yeah.
Yeah. So he's in the movie, both as Jason and another character, and he's coordinating the stunts, so...
He's like, I'll let it pass, you can have other people be him, but I want more credit with something else.
Kane Hodder is amazing because it bears no resemblance to how he actually speaks, but it captures the essence of the man better than any literal impersonation would.
Thank you.
You make him sound like a character from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's what you make him sound like. And then last but not least, production assistant Sean Coombs.
Uh-oh.
If no one has investigated working practices on this film,
uh-oh,
right about now might be the time. With a certain trial that's ongoing, might be the time to check in and make sure this is not the same Sean Coombs.
He's the guy that said, let the worm go up the butthole.
There you go.
Or the pussy.
And don't tell her it's going to happen.
Yeah, right.
That sounds like pure P. Diddy.
He said, above all, keep it a secret.
That sounds like Diddy all over.
Oh, mercy. Terrible.
There you go. That's the end of my credit check. So,
all right.
With that foul play.
Well, not a good movie.
No.
But
not a terrible movie.
But not a terrible movie. And there, like I said, I said I think in the ranking episode, I said there were things that I valued in this movie, maybe more than the other ones. And part of it is that practical effects, that cop goo melting, most especially.
Yeah, definitely.
That looks as good as anything else in the series.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think the detractors are detractors for specific reasons. Jason's not in this movie very much, or at least not the Jason they know, want, and love. But they took big swings, and you can argue about how well those swings turned out.
Yeah.
Not a lot of home runs, certainly a lot of dribbles to third base for outs.
Yeah, a couple of walks to first.
Yeah, exactly. Look at you. Look at you going with the sports references.
Got a son in Little League, so I understand.
I'll
things
take a
about
ball,
baseball now.
sir, and now I will walk to first, this movie said.
Yeah, for the record, I'm not opposed to shift in mythology. I mean, you know, I think this series more than any others is fertile ground to sort of do whatever you want mythologically. But you know, it's just not done as adeptly as Part 6 did with.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, it's kind of like, well, let's build a mythology out of this because we haven't decided what Jason is yet.
It's not exactly literate, this movie.
It's not. I wouldn't describe it as literate, no.
Yeah.
But and you know, these movies are good in. You know, some of these movies are good, some of them are bad, but they're all good in fragments. And the fragment of this movie that's good for me is the cold open.
Yeah, absolutely. Love it.
So, if I could kind of end the movie there, it might be a perfect movie.
Perfect movie. Love that.
A cold open is a perfect movie.
I'd like to show you our next 10-minute film.
Yeah,
It's
it feels
perfect.
like, but it feels like they cut together like a promotional reel for the movie, and then got the movie made on the back of that, and then just didn't have anything to back it up with.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's not how it happened, but I wonder his pitch was like. It feels I don't know whenever
Somebody said, "Stop right there, we'll buy it."
Yeah, exactly. It also feels like one of our pitches. It definitely feels like something one or other of us would do in one of our sequel pitches.
Oh, it seems like something you would do.
I take that as a compliment. I know that's not how it was intended, but I absolutely take that as a compliment.
I know it was said like it wasn't a compliment. In my head, it was more of a compliment.
No, that's fine. I'll own that. But I think you've done stuff like that in your sequel pitches as well, because I think it's good sequel filmmaking. You've got all this baggage to deal with. What do you do with it?
True. All right. Now we need to know what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Tell us your feelings on what the hell is this movie called? The Final Friday. No, Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday.
Yeah.
We got to know what you think of that film. By all means, find us on Facebook, find us on Instagram. Avoid X, but send us a
Apart
thread.
from Jason X, which we'll talk about next.
All right, settle down. Go ahead and send an email to everythingsequel@gmail.com. For Tom Stewart of Lonesome Whistle Productions, Michael Shantz here of the How Dare You Awards. We'll be back. As Tom just said, we're talking Jason X. Look forward to that. Say goodbye to everybody, Tom.
Go to hell. This is where this happened. This is what's said as Jason is killed at the end of the movie. Seemed to also happen at the beginning of the movie, but it turns out he hadn't gone to hell yet.
No, he was busy.
Turd worming his way into everyone's bodies.
Yeah. Also, that one part of mythology that's left out where the beating heart just makes you want to eat it so that the evil can get inside you. So there's that too, you know? It's not just turd worms.
Yeah.
The heart does it too.
And even the idea that you need to shave someone to get a turd worm in their mouth.
Ridiculous.
That never comes back.
Yeah. I hope Aaron Gray was shaved down there. Otherwise, that worm would have crawled back out.
How did it get into Richard Gant in the first place? Oh, he ate the
heart.
So is it like
it possessed him to eat the heart?
It's like a tapeworm that he got whilst eating Jason's heart.
Yeah, he's like Kennedy.
Kennedy. Oh, Robert Kennedy.
Yeah.
RFK Jr. with the worm in his head, yeah.
All right.
How long, as John Oliver says, how long was that dead worm in there? Exactly. Based on some of his more recent comments.
Right. All right, everyone. We'll be back